Hi everybody, my name is Charlotte Lange and welcome back to the Pageant Podcast. I hope you all have your learning caps on today because today is an episode that I have been wanting to film for so long and I've been doing my research for the past few weeks. Today we're going to talk about the history of pageants, and this is going to be a no-stop format where we're just going to sit down together and I'm going to look at all my research and I'm going to talk about all the details about it and go into depth about things that you probably don't know about, even if you are in pageantry. I bet you did not know some of these things. I know I certainly did not know most of these things. And so this is going to be a very interesting episode, and let's just get into it. So the very first pageant was in 1839. I know that was a lot earlier than I thought it was, and it was in Scotland, and it was called the Queen of Beauty. And the purpose of this pageant was to inspire tourism in Scotland, which is just so interesting. And a lot of the early pageants that were created and done were kind of a performance. They were to inspire tourism and help gain audiences and traction. A lot of them were done at festivals or just celebrations, events, and they were supposed to inspire national pride. The first Miss America pageant was in 1921, which is a lot later. From the first ever pageant, there were many different kinds of local pageants that were held in different countries, and the purpose of them all was to raise tourism and to raise money for the country and the community. But Miss America was a national held pageant, and it was specifically designed to inspire patriotism. They wanted the American people to see this and be like, this is the representation of an American girl. She's beautiful. Look at her. She's amazing. She's so stunning. This is what America represents. You love America because you love how beautiful this girl is. And that was kind of the thought process and inspiration behind that. And then, however, in 1945, scholarships were added to Miss America, which is just amazing because this was an era where we didn't see a lot of growth in the women's rights movement. However, in Miss America, we see women getting support to continue their educations, which I think is just absolutely beautiful. And this is such early representation of pageants helping and giving a positive impact to women's lives. And so this is something I absolutely love to see. And then in 1952, we have the very first Miss USA pageant. In that very same year, we have the Miss Universe pageant. Now, what Miss USA and Miss Universe does is it makes pageantry a global phenomenon. It means every single person around the world can sit there and cheer for their country and say, I want my country to win. And that inspires even more patriotism, which was the beginning goal of pageants. In the first Miss Universe, there were only 30 contestants. However, that number has significantly grown now to most every country having representation at Miss Universe, which is just incredible. And I think over the years, as more countries have been entered into Miss Universe, they have been able to feel such great national pride, especially smaller nations that aren't represented as much on national stages. This is a way for them to be represented because there's a representation from every single country competing, and every girl is showcased on the stage, and so that's great. And then Miss World also happens in the 50s as well. So in the 1950s, we are seeing worldwide growth in the knowledge about pageantry. People didn't know a lot about pageants, but everyone knew about pageants because of Miss World and Miss Universe. So then in the 1960s, we see something new. We see the invention of little girl pageants. So these pageants were kind of inspired to showcase beauty in the younger kids. And the first pageant in 1960s was Little Miss America. And it was not affiliated with the Miss America organization. And the purpose of it was to showcase little girls' talents and beauties on stage. And this was kind of at the same time that we were seeing a rise in fame around younger girls in Hollywood. We were seeing younger girls start to look a little bit older, and we were seeing even preteens wearing makeup while on stage and in performances. So this was a big change, and with that shift, we saw the little girl pageants. However, these little girl pageants did not gain a lot of recognition. These like little kid beauty pageants didn't gain a lot of recognition until we see the rise of TV shows around pageants, specifically these little girl beauty pageants. From 1998 to 2007, we see King of Queens as a show that constantly was growing. It had rapid growth, and everyone was watching and everyone was witnessing what little girl pageants were. Specifically, King of Queens was focused on more preteen ages, not like 7 or 8 year olds, but we'll get to that in a second. However, King of Queens inspired so much outrage because people were seeing these pageants, they were thinking, this is so damaging to young kids. This is definitely harboring insecurities, and this is just wrong on all levels. And a lot of parents were outraged, saying that this was bad parenting and that parents should never allow their kid to be in a children's beauty contest. And then alongside that, this inspired another show, which is called Toddlers and Tiaras, 2009 to 2016 actually, which I didn't even know Toddlers and Tiaras was on for that long, but that was something I learned. But Toddlers and Tiaras just inspired more anger about pageants. People are seeing toddlers in full hair and makeup, and they're thinking, this is terrible. We cannot allow our kids to be, their minds warped at this level. And so this is when we started to see more anger about pageants. Up until then, pageants were kind of viewed as something that was amazing. Like, the girls that won were like princesses. And then we see King of Queens and Toddlers and Tiaras, and media circulating pageants became more and more negative. So, however, as there was frustration and backlash towards beauty pageants, we see a rise in the late 90s and early 2000s of confidence pageants for kids. Confidence pageants being pageants that don't allow young kids to wear makeup and kind of inspire young girls to use their voices. They're trying to teach them important life skills while also offering prizes to further their career and development. And we see these pageants gain traction among girls that might have wanted to do a beauty pageant, but whose parents have seen King of Queens and have thought, maybe that's a little bit damaging to my child's well-being, and through those thoughts, they have found confidence pageants. Now, confidence pageants are still not something that is well known in today's day and age. I think it's because these TV shows, King of Queens and Toddlers and Tiaras, they had something that they could easily dramatize. When you're talking about a beauty pageant, that is something that is going to gain so much attention in the public eye. However, confidence pageants, if you're trying to make a show about confidence pageants, people might not be as interested to watch. They might just be like, oh, cool, that's great that they're doing that for those young kids. However, that is why not a lot of people know about confidence pageants, and not a lot of people know that there is another option from beauty pageants, and that there are pageants that combine confidence and beauty. With all the outrage, we see an effect on Miss America. In 2018, Miss America removes the swimsuit competition and replaces it with fitness. Now, after this, we saw a large rise in growth in pageants that use fitness, especially for younger girls, instead of swimsuit or other contests that were viewed as scandalous. Now we can see that pageantry has continued to expand regardless of the constant controversies that come up with pageants. We now see hundreds and thousands of different pageant systems and organizations that all are looking for something different for their representative. However, the media still only knows beauty pageants and Miss USA and Miss America, which are like kind of beauty pageants, but people hate on Miss USA and Miss America a lot less than they do younger kid beauty pageants, because they don't think that they're as negative and harmful for women as impacting them with beauty pageants at a young ages. So we have seen continued expansion regardless of hate and disregard, and that is because pageantry is this little hidden community of people. If it's kind of an if you know thing, and with this podcast, my goal is to make it so everyone knows. I want not only pageant girls to know, like, look at this, there's other options. There's an option for every girl who wants to compete in a pageant. There's an option for what messaging and what their values are. But not a lot of people know that. And so my goal with this podcast is to inspire more people to be educated on pageants, and I hope this helped you know a little bit more about pageants history. I thought this was so cool. Please, in the comments, leave something that you learned from this episode or something you want to learn. If there's something you are like, I have a question, Teacher Charlotte, please leave it down below, because I would love to answer this. And this was such a fun episode to film, because I myself didn't know a lot, and this forced me to educate myself a little bit more. And so it was a lot of fun. I hope to see you all back again on Thursday for my next episode, and I hope you have an amazing Tuesday. Bye, everybody.